Hey guys, welcome to your 11.3 notes over histograms. Histograms is kind of a fancy term for something like a bar graph. So we're going to be making something that looks like a bar graph today. Okay, so example number 1, a police officer measures the speeds in miles per hour of 30 motorists. The results are shown in the table. So I'm looking at all of these speeds over here. And I notice we're going to make a frequency table using 6 intervals. Okay, so what that means is we're going to try and figure out how many people fit in different intervals. So it says begin with 31 to 35. So I want all my intervals to be the same. So I know that 31 to 35 is 5 numbers. So my next set is going to be 36 to 40. That's another 5 numbers. And then my next interval is going to be 41 to 45, and it says I'm using 6 intervals, so I have 3 so far. My next one is going to be 46 to 50, and then 51 to 55, and the last one, 56 to 60. Okay, so each of these is going to be something that I'm just tallying. Okay, so I'm going to go through each of the speeds in the table and figure out which interval they fit in. So 32 is between 31 and 35, so I have one number that is in between there. Okay, so I'm going to say I use that one, and then I'm going to go to the next number. So I'm going to go down, so 53 fits in between 51 and 55, so I'm going to make a tally mark there. Okay, so we're just tallying up how many fit in each interval. So I'm going to make mine a little more like a table so that I can see exactly where each of those intervals is. Okay, so my next number is 56, so that's going to go down here. And then next number is 50. Cross that off my list. 55, 51, 54, 52, 55, 45, 44, 38, 41, just going down the line, 50, 45, 53, 60, 50, 40, 58, 39, 48, 42, 55, 49, 52, 55, 52, 60, and 47. Okay, so what I'm going to do next is look at each of those frequencies, and I'm going to figure out how many tally marks I had for each. So between 31 and 35, I had one person going that speed in between those intervals. Between 36 and 40 miles per hour, there were 3 people traveling. And then between 41 and 45 miles per hour, we had 5 people. 46 to 50, we had 6 people. 51 to 55, we had 11 people. And 56 to 60, we had 4 people. So what we're going to do next is make a histogram from the frequency table. So our frequency is going to go up the y-axis of our table, and we're just going to count. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Our biggest number is 11, so trying to reach that. Going all the way up. Make sure we can get 11 on the graph. That's good. Okay. And then across the bottom, we're going to put our intervals. Okay, so our intervals, I'm just going to make the bars 2 blocks wide so that you can see them. Okay, so my first interval is going to go from 31 to 35. And then my next interval is going to go 36 to 40. And then my next one, 41 to 45. 46 to 50. Okay, and then we have 51 to 55 and 56 to 60. Okay, so that first one we just had one person going that speed, so we're going to fill in that box. The next interval we had 3 people, so I'm going to go up to 3 and fill in that box. Next in the frequency table I had 5 people, so I'm going to go up to 5, fill in that box. And then I had 6 people in the next interval, and then 11 people in the next interval. That's my biggest one. And 4 people in the last interval. Okay, so that's what your histogram should look like. And then at the bottom it says analyze the data. What do you notice? What interval are there the most motorists and where are there the least? So our most motorists is between 51 to 55. Our least is between 31 and 35. So since this is my police officer measuring speeds of 30 different motorists, we can actually try and figure out what we think the speed limit might be. So maybe because most people are going 51 to 55, our speed limit is somewhere between 50 and 55. Okay, so that might give us an idea of what the speed limit on the road might be where the police officer was measuring these speeds. Okay, so for example 2, it says you record the numbers of email attachments sent by 30 employees of a company in 1 week. Your results are shown in the table. Display the data in a histogram using 6 intervals beginning with 1 through 20. Analyze the histogram. So first thing it tells us to do is to create the histogram using 6 intervals. In order to create a histogram, we need to find the frequency table. So this is the table right in the middle that we have to do before we can create the histogram. So it says start with intervals 1 through 20. Remember, your intervals should be the same. So 1 through 20, that's 20 numbers. So in the next one, I'm going to go 21 to 40. And then I'm going to do 41 to 60. It says I need 6 intervals, so I'm going to keep going. That's 3 of them so far. Fourth one is going to be 61 to 80. Fifth one is going to be 81 to 100. And then sixth one, 101 to 120. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and make mine look more like a table so I can make sure I get those tally marks in the right place. And then I'm going to go through my table and put them into my frequency graph, okay? So I'm going to say the first number is 74. So it fits right here, 61 to 80. So I'm going to put a tally mark for that number, and I'm going to check off that I put it in my box. And the next one is 85. So that fits between 81 and 100. So I'm going to put a tally mark there, and then check it off in my box. Okay, next one is 65. So I'm going to say 61 to 80. And I'm going to check it off in my box. Okay, and I'm going to keep going down the list. So the next one is 64. So I'm going to put a tally mark. 72. 42. 105. 75. 55. 52. 5. 25. 98, 60, 58, 65, 45, 95, 68, 48, 45, 30, 77, 16, 64, 51, 38, 70, 83, and 120. Okay, so now remember what I'm going to do is look at my frequency. I'm going to count up my tally marks to see how many I have in each frequency. Okay, so in each frequency interval, in the first one I have 2 tally marks, then I have 3 tally marks, and then 9, 10, 4, and 2. So that's going to help me when I make my histogram over here, because remember, up the side is always my frequency, and I'm just going to count by ones. So 0, 1, 2, all the way up. 3. Okay, so I counted all the way up with my frequency, and then along the bottom is going to be my intervals. Again, I'm going to use 2 of them at a time, so my first interval is going to be 1 to 20. Okay, so I'm going to use 2 blocks to show me that, and that goes up to a 2. My second interval is going to be 21 to 40, and that goes up to 3. So I'm getting those numbers from how many we did in our tally marks. So my next tally marks, I had 9 of them, and that interval was from 41 to 60. So that's going to go all the way up to 9. And then my next interval was a 10, and that was the frequency interval of 61 to 80. Okay, my next interval was 81 to 100, and I had 4 that fit into that interval. And then the last one was 101 to 120, and we had 2 people fit into that interval. Okay, so we're building the histogram based on how many numbers are represented in each interval. So make sure you are looking at that. And then it just says to analyze the histogram. So I'm looking and I'm seeing that most people sent somewhere between 41 to 80 attachments in their emails. Okay, so we're going to say most was between 41 to 80, or if you wanted to be more specific, the absolute most was 61 to 80, had 10 in that interval, and the least, we had a tie between 1 to 20 and 101 to 120. Okay, so most people fit somewhere in between 61 and 80. 41 to 80 was also very close. We had 9 and 10 there, and then our least was between 1 and 20 and 101 and 120. There were only 2 that had those many attachments. Okay, our last example for histograms is about emojis. So emoticons are graphic symbols that represent facial expressions and are used to convey a person's mood in a text message. The double histogram shows the distributions of emoticon messages sent by a group of female students and a group of male students during 1 week. Compare the distributions. So on top we have females. On bottom we have males. And we want to compare the two. So I'm noticing that girls, our biggest number was 14 right here. Okay, so 14 female students used between 30 and 39 emojis, okay, within 1 week. Whereas boys, 14 boys used 0 to 9 emojis. So we can say that boys use less emojis than girls, and the average for girls was 30 to 39, where the average for boys was 0 to 9. Okay, that's a lot less than the girls. Okay, your homework is on EdSite, so make sure you are asking any questions. Some of them you just need to click in order to get the histogram to create. So if you have questions on how you're doing that, make sure you are asking questions either through email or through Teams. Thanks, guys.